If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation. What's going on, Knuckleheads? Welcome back to the Fighters Rep video podcast. I'm your host of Fighters Rep, and today we're going to be talking about UFC Fight Night, Tyron Woodley versus Gilbert Burns. We're going to be giving you our preview prediction. I think it's also known as UFC on ESPN 9. It's going down at the Apex. Actually, that might be the proper name for it. It's going down at the Apex in Las Vegas. I believe they're going to be fighting in a cage that's slightly smaller than the one that they're used to fighting in. So a lot of interesting little tidbits regarding this event. And, you know, the main event of the evening is going to see the return of Tyron Woodley, a guy who, you know, hasn't been in the ring since his loss, a decision loss to Kamaru Usman, the current champion in the UFC's welterweight division. And that's the last time we saw the Chosen One in the octagon. And believe it or not, that was over a year ago on March 2nd, 2019. So, you know, time is flying by with this COVID disaster that we're dealing with. That being said, you know, this is a very interesting fight. This fight between Tyron Woodley and Gilbert Burns. And the reason I think this fight is interesting is because they seem to be each other's sort of kryptonite. And what I mean by that is when you look at their statistics and what they're good at and what they're not good at, I mean, you see it's you know, it has the real potential of being a sort of stalemate fight. You've got Tyron Woodley, 38 years old, older than Burns, and I think when you're 38, you're definitely leaning towards the end of your career. You've kind of already probably maxed out as a welterweight in the UFC. He's also, you know, an explosive wrestling-based fighter with huge knockout power. Then you've got, again, Gilbert Burns, 33 years old, still sort of priming. A little bit taller, a little bit of a lesser reach, but even though he's not the wrestler that Tyron Woodley is, and even though I don't think he's as explosive, he does have a tremendous ground game. And, you know, he's a jiu-jitsu guy, and if you're going to be able to beat a wrestler like Tyron, good jiu-jitsu base is going to be key. Also, he's got very heavy hands, does Gilbert Burns. He does have one-punch knockout power, so that's also something that they're both going to have to watch out for in this fight, because either one could turn out the other's lights, you know, with one shot. And that's what's really exciting, I think, about this fight. I do think they'll probably try to keep it standing. I do think at the beginning, Woodley may have the advantage in the stand-up because he's got the longer reach and because he's more explosive. But I do think that if Burns, you know, attacks and takes the fight to him, especially as the fight progresses, I do think his chances increase of winning this fight. And, you know, a lot of people might look at this fight and say, hey, you know, somebody's going to get knocked out here. But both of these guys, I think, are so good on the ground that even if they do get hurt, they may be able to save themselves unless they get caught with the other's one-hitter quitter. So, you know, this is a very even fight. It's a very even fight. And the reason I think that is because, you know, even though traditionally I would probably think Tyron Woodley's got the advantage in this fight, here's the thing about Tyron that I'm not sure, you know, a lot of people have noticed. I mean, in the last 4 years, he's fought, let's see here, or rather in the last 3 years, since 2017, he's only fought 4 times. His last fight was in 2019, over a year ago, and he's coming off a loss, which, that could be devastating to somebody's confidence, especially the way he took that loss against Kamaru Usman. I mean, he was dominated for 5 rounds, lost his title, and has not fought since. And again, it's been over a year and a couple months. Before that, he beat Darren Till, but even that was back in September of 2018. And before that, he fought a Damian Maia in July of 2017. So, not the most active guy, and I think at the age of 38, going in there against a surging young prospect in Gilbert Burns is extremely dangerous. And the reason I feel that way, even more is, when you take into consideration Gilbert Burns' performances over his last fight. I mean, he's got 5 wins in a row. And since 2017, he's had 8 fights. I mean, he's basically had 8 fights in the span that Tyron Woodley has 4. And he just fought as recently as a few months ago in March at UFC Fight Night, Lee versus Oliveira, where Oliveira choked out and finished Kevin Lee. So this guy's been active, and at that event, he even scored performance of the night. I mean, this guy's been really performing well, and it was in that fight where he TKO'd Damian Maia. And before that, he picked up a unanimous decision win over Gunnar Nelson, who's a very tough guy in Denmark. Now, if you look back into his record, I mean, he hasn't really fought anyone of note, really, beside those guys that we spoke about. He does have a loss to Rashid Magomedov, and then he's got a loss to Dan Hooker back in 2018, which was 6 fights ago, which, shows you how active he's been, that, in 2 years he's had 6 fights. And this will be 7 against Tyron Woodley. But I like the fact that Gilbert Burns is a younger guy. He's the more active guy. He does have the ground skills to stifle Tyron Woodley if it goes there. I do think he also possesses heavy hands, and Tyron Woodley's going to have to watch out for that. I do think, again, that Woodley will perhaps start off better because he's the more explosive athlete. But I do think that he may get outlasted here. And, Woodley's just been too inactive. I mean, I think based on raw talent, typically I would go with Tyron Woodley in this fight. But I like Gilbert Burns in this fight, man. I'm not sure if most people have Burns as the favorite. I believe he's not the favorite, so I'm going against the grain here. But I can see Burns winning this fight. I can see Burns winning this fight by decision, knucklehead. So that's pretty much all I got for you guys today. Sorry I'm a little bit late on the video. Typically I go live at 7. But yeah, I mean, we'll be going live typically at 7 on Mondays and Fridays. Wednesdays, we're going to start reserving that for the Fighters Rep fight. So we're going to be uploading a Fighters Rep fight every Wednesday. And maybe even twice a week. So definitely stick around, stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't already. And that's all I've got for you guys, knuckleheads. So appreciate you guys joining in. If you're watching this on the replay, tell me who you think wins tomorrow. And be sure to join us tomorrow immediately after the fight, where we'll be talking about this fight. So that's all I've got for you, knuckleheads. Until next time, keep it clean. I'm the Fighters Rep, and I'm out of here.